president started his New Year's speech by congratulating the gallant efforts of the Nigerian military and other security agencies in the remarkable successes achieved in the outgoing year against terrorism, one of which is the capture of Sambisa Forest, spearheaded by troops of Operation Lafayette Dole. What was your first reaction having heard that news?
Okay, you see, most times when the army or the security agencies release statements, I always employ media people. I say, ask them for appropriate interpretations. Okay. You know, when you communicate, if you see some news head flash lines, you know, you will want to click and open, especially online news.
That's right.
And that gives them a lot of followership and all that. So they put a caption, and when you read what is inside, you just like, oh, what's going on, you know? So if we say the president said he's giving credence to the army for capturing Sambisa Forest, you see now, Sambisa Forest cannot be captured. Why? It is larger than has been estimated. It needs to be surveyed. It needs to, the span, width, depth needs to be captured appropriately, all the perimeters. The report was Camp Zero was captured.
But that would be that there's
now,
yes. That would mean that there's something wrong with the speech of Mr. President.
No, nothing is wrong. You are quoting the president's speech. Did you read the content? When he said capture of Sambisa Forest, that means the stronghold of the militants was dispelled.
Okay.
Now they moved.
He didn't say that.
It is obvious he wouldn't say that. You're talking about a presidential speech.
Okay.
If you need to go to the nitty-gritty, there are defense correspondents in this country. You get defense correspondents, you get to the spokespersons of the appropriate agency, the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, the police, whatever. Then the spokesperson will now give you the breakdown of the news that can be captured. Then you will now inculcate that in your report. But when you look at what the president is saying, the president goes into all the nitty-gritty. His report, his speech will be like a 3-day sermon that you cannot wait for. So what the president is telling you is just his speech. Now, let us go into what the defense correspondents, the heads of the agencies, the army, the DSS, they have press releases. You can look at those press releases, you get the content of what they are disseminating.
Okay, let's still talk about this Sambisa Forest and the Boko Haram and all of that. The president said we've entered a new phase in the fight against Boko Haram. But my question right now would be, he also said that about 21 Chibok girls have been released. Most people would say that since Sambisa Forest has been captured, in quote, where are the girls? He's also believing that this year we'll see the return of these girls not being reunited to with their families. Do you see all of that playing out this year, really?
What year are you talking about?
2017.
2017. Today is 03.
Yeah.
3rd of 2017.
Yes.
03 of 2016. I know all of us had this opportunity to talk about all of this. Okay, we talked about the Boko Haram, we talked about kidnapping, we talked about political influence of generating hype in crime, we talked about all of that. Now, if you look at what has happened over the years, you will now see that the major cross of the opportunity for them to make logical statements, like hoisting flags, taking over communities, holding ground, that has already been a challenge for the Boko Haram. Then also for the Boko Haram to keep a united front, all these myths about where they get their power, where they get their sources, has also been dispelled by the factioning. The factioning has now shown that they have internal crisis. And some of them have come out to make lamentations about how Chekao is killing commanders and taking lives and taking their lives and all of that. So we now see that, yes, they too are having internal challenges. So for them to have factions mean they have different commanding fronts, they have different sourcing fronts, they have also different opportunities to have targets, because each group cannot have the same target. I cannot be going to bomb the State House and the next group is going to bomb the State House. So that is creating enough challenges for them already. Then sources of fund. We already know that the financial institutions have drawn a round loop around the EFCC controls from the CBN about how much you can transfer, who has what amount in any account. You know, fighting corruption also exposed a lot of opportunities for them to launder money, because these guys need a lot of fund. A lot of fund for feeding, a lot of fund for their medicals, a lot of fund for their buying of information. They also don't use all of coercive means to get information. They also buy information from government people, from government agencies, from me and you that live around ourselves. They generate information from us. So in those days, you remember they will see some Boko Haram commander caught in a checking point with a large sum of money in his boots. We have those news running then. That means they were able to access funds easily. How do they get funds now? All of the sourcing of funds have moved towards blackmail, have moved towards exchange in terms of power to come and intimidate. We have the army to give you to intimidate. They moved into kidnapping. You notice that so many pressure criminal groups that want to fight for amnesty, that want to fight for their ideology like Boko Haram, they begin to kidnap. Once they kidnap people now, they ask for funds and you pay for the kidnap in exchange of your persons, and they get money to run their businesses. That means the financial institution is not as easy a source of getting finance, and also so outside forces too became difficult. So everything now moved to borderlines. You know, we have a borderline now with Niger, with Chad Republic,
with Cameroon.
With Cameroon. So because of these antecedents of those crises of fighting for land mass, and the African countries are having issue like Bakassi issue of those days. So every of these surrounding countries now are trying to be friendly with one another. So there is a lot of buffer grounds within that these criminal elements can hold ground, which is not for Chad, it's not for Nigeria. Which is not for Cameroon, it's not for Nigeria. So these areas now need the joint forces that have been created by Nigeria and all the surrounding countries to agree to go into those places and begin to annihilate all their strongholds. You know, once they begin to do that, you will now see that the bulk of responsibility, even from onset, falls back to the populace, me and you. Because these people are not ghosts. These people were not deported from somewhere and they just landed here. They lived here. They know the local content. They know the local environment. They know survival skills within those local environments. Where you see maybe the Nigerian soldiers need water, need food, but the insurgents knows where to go to a hidden creek or a hidden water source and just get water, so they don't maybe need supplies, all of that. So it is also our prerogative right now to look inwards. Communities should look inward and form organizations on how to identify all these criminal elements within their midst. Because just one criminal element that is known and is not reported can give a leeway to the marauders that come into the community and kill everybody. And you now say, oh, what is the government doing? We, the populace, we, the civilians, the communities, we need to look inward.
Let's try to explore that a little bit more, because Mr. President mentioned that categorically, talking about citizen supporting security agencies, especially, you mentioned captured again, that now that these criminal elements have escaped from the captured Sambisa forest. But let's look at this vis-a-vis the relationship that currently exists between citizens and local security agencies. What's the nature of that relationship, and is it really helping in the role that Nigerian citizens have to play?
Yeah. You see, we had a lot of fight online, drawing to understanding the ideas and the principles of the government agencies and the views and the mindset of the people. It was negative, very, very negative, especially at the collapse of real violent political environment where the political godfather gives power to hoodlums. We experienced that a lot in Lagos in those days, where you get to Third Mainland Bridge and Oshodi Bridge, and somebody will just walk to you and obtain your phone and all of that. Even when you are walking, somebody can walk to you and just take in the broad daylight, in the presence of police officers and all of that. You know, gradually people started to make statements. People with this media technology, people started to record footages. People started to capture this brazen boldness of criminality in broad daylight. And the security agencies came out to actually showcase their incapabilities. You know, there was a TV station that went to peruse and expose the police college. So everybody was like, oh, is this where they train our police officers? You know, because of technology, all of these started to come up. Then the police themselves, the other agencies began to bring up websites where you can stay in the comfort of your room and report what was happened and what happened to you, what happened to your friend, you know, directly to the IG, to the monitoring team, and these things started to help. Now, since we had alternative opportunities, I don't need to walk to a DPO and report it, and the DPO is a friend to the neighborhood criminal, and they point my house out and say, is that guy? So that fear left. Okay. So it's now left to us to say, we need to approach these people. But most of the time, my clients and people I have opportunity to interact with, I told them, I said, you don't approach a police formation for assistance as an individual. As an individual, you form a street community, your streets, your estate community, your environment. You approach your local councillors. You know, you can harass the councillor and say, look, we'll take this thing up if you don't join us to support the police, to tell them where we need their assistance. You know, helplines came up. 767 came up, 112 came up, and the government integrated public partnership. The banks, other companies in the state supported other states started to use that as a model. Now, while all of this was going on, people began to get confident that they can actually record and report a police officer. Then the police officers themselves began to see support from the people, not as a bribe, but as a support, like vehicles, like fueling. Like some people pay money to a filling station and say, okay, try to give them fuel for patrolling in our area. Some of them create a place where the police can park a vehicle which the government provided and say, okay, this is. So if you go to some place, you will see written on the vehicle too, provided and supported by so and so community. That's right. So those things created a lot of opportunity for the police to get intelligence. Getting intelligence, if you noticed, you will see that armed robbery became a challenge to armed robbers. For them to hit large sums of money that will quantify the risk of carrying gun to rob a bank became a problem. After a while, you will hear that one was arrested, he has given a reasonable statement. After a while, you hear 3 others were apprehended in so and so state, brought back to Lagos. So gradually, armed robbery per se, became a problem. For just, you hear that a street was robbed by 20 people. That 20 armed robbers came into a street, they did house to house. All those things started to douse down because emergency response increased in its capacity. There became a kind of build-up of trust, which is not 100%, but there was build-up of trust. So whilst all this were going on, robbery became a major challenge. Now, I became angry. I became angry in the sense that while we were making the community secure, while we were making the roads lighted, while we were making all of this, we forgot that these hoodlums can begin to form liaison. They can also form WhatsApp groups and all of that, which we are doing to protect ourselves. Because they live in you. It's difficult to curb crime. Why? The criminal is part of those that created the policy in your streets, in your banks, in your IT industry, in all of that. The criminals are those that are in the police that left are in the army that left, are dismissed soldiers, dismissed policemen for maybe criminal behavior or all of that. So they know how to shoot, they know how to source arms from also criminal elements in the forces, which they can also get their equipment. So they move to the bushes, they move to the creeks, they move to the riverine area, they move to the forest, and now began to have strongholds. So how do you get money now? Kidnapping, kicked up. You remember?
Yeah.
Kidnapping kicked up everywhere. Kidnapping, kidnapping, kidnapping. Because that was another easy way. And there was no enabling law to curb kidnapping. Why? The kidnapper gets to court. There was no enabling law. So state government, federal government started to put in laws. You know, states start their own. Some will say it's death if you are caught. Some will say it's life imprisonment and all of that. Then kidnappers saw that, yes, it's daring. So they increased the amount of money that they will take after they kidnap somebody like Justin now. They will say, okay, they need a lot of money because they need to get money from it. But now, instead of the judicial system to now be the bedrock to support the curb against criminal activities, when the policemen get you, they take you to the judiciary. When the SSS get you, they take you to the judiciary. EFCC, DSS, even drug cases, NDLEA, they take you to court. Now, who interprets the law and sentence you? Corruption now ate up the judiciary, where we start seeing monies kept under the bed by chief justices and all of this, and all of these cases started coming up. So the criminals are watching. Okay. They now see that there was no law. So that is where
okay, right, let me butt in here now. Exactly 2 years ago, 2015, we heard about the Bagan massacre, where thousands of people were killed, you know. But over time, throughout last year, another uprising began to scale up in the country from the Fulani herdsmen. You know, lately it was even down to Kaduna State, where lots of people were killed in the southern Kaduna parts of the state. You know, a whole lot of Nigerians, a cross-section of people, have actually, you know, criticized the way the present administration has gone. They say that he has not really made any formal statement concerning the Fulani herdsman killing, and of course what we had in Agatu, and right now what's happening in southern Kaduna. You know, let us project now for 2017. You know, the way we've handled the issue of you know, the Fulani herdsman killing, the uprising down in the south, is, and of course even in the south, where we headed. What are we supposed to be doing this year?
Okay, I like that, because we are doing solution findings now.
Yes.
Okay, so because if I want to talk about 2016, excuse me, I will tell you that so many people have innocent blood on their hands. And it's very unfortunate. So many leaders in this country, so many people with opportunities to manipulate the youths, so many people with opportunities to channel false information to create hype and mayhem and loss of life, and they do it. So because of power, struggling for power, because of political positioning, because of, even if you want to make an ordinary minister, you will be surprised what some people will go and do, and people will die over it just to make a minister. And the person will be there tomorrow and tell you that, don't mind them, they don't know me. And we are seeing all of this now in so many leaked videos. Now it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. So let's forget about it. We're in 2017. Thank God for that. Congratulations for getting to say 2017. Now, we need to, in this 2017, begin to understand that there is a ground that we stand on. And this ground that we stand on has geographical coverage, which is aligned to Nigeria as a country already. So there are nationalities that live amongst us. Either they are nationalized as Nigerians or they are foreigners living amongst us. Well, the immigration may have their data or not. You know, so many people are arrested. And we say, I told somebody the other day, this guy says he's a Nigerian. You say it's not a Nigerian. He says it's from so and so community. Who is your brother? If you say you are an Irobo man, a thief man, or you are a Hausa man,
they tackled. He's a legal practitioner. He's joining us to talk about outlook for security in the year 2017. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
In 2016, we saw a direct link between insecurity and the economy, where the projected barrels of oil to be produced in the Niger Delta fell below the yardstick. There are many who would say that is fundamental to the recession we find ourselves now. But then, the concern of Nigerians now is the approach of this administration. When you read President's speech earlier in the year, I'm quoting him now. He said, misguided elements who decided to take up arms against constituted authorities must be brought to face the full weight of the law. There are many who disagree with the president, that perhaps if this administration had followed suit with the previous means of dialogue and providing amnesty, perhaps we would have enough oil now to sell and to make money. What are your thoughts along this line?
Well, in the books, yes, of course, it is right. The president talking legally, who is trying to say misguided elements, miscreants, or whatever name he might choose. In the books, it's okay. But of course, as far as governance is concerned, there's so much about being in governance. There's so many decisions that are taken outside of the books that are in the best interest of the nation. You know, if you insist on taking decisions in accordance with the letter of the law, I mean, there are situations in any country, not just Nigeria, that you insist on taking such steps and the nation will be worse off for it. And this is just one of such. You know, what do we have in the south region of Nigeria, and especially the Niger Delta region, that is the major source of the revenue and income of this nation? And like you've said, many have thought that it's because of the shortfall in the projections of oil production that has led to recession, where economies will differ here and there. But however, the truth remains that the action of these people very, very adversely affected the nation. And so, is it a question of taking up arms against them and saying we'll deal with it according to the letters of the law? You might also want to add, that's why I said there are certain decisions taken where diplomacy and wisdom detect. Wouldn't it have been better, like you said, you know, in your preamble, in your opening statement, that wouldn't it have been better to dialogue with them? Would it have been better to follow up with the amnesty program that the last administration started? You know, wouldn't it have been better to ensure that the kernel of the complaint, what gave rise to all of this insurrection? You know, because of the injustices meted out to the people. I mean, we are Nigerians, and the earlier we are sincere to ourselves, the better. I thank God for now, oil has been discovered in Lake Chad. There's oil in Lagos State. One of the things I've said is to show that, of course, we need to be fair. We need to let everybody have a sense of responsibility and belonging. You know, how could you tap from the backyard of those people, leave them desolate, and you know, and then use those funds to develop other areas and leave them desolate? Now, people have argued and said, it is the sons and daughters of this region who have been in charge of this revenue that comes in, which is not true. You might want to ask and say, what was the revenue, the derivation formula before the military came in? Why is it 13%? Is it fair? Is it natural? Would it have been so if this oil was found in another part of this country, given the level of marginalization that this region has suffered? You know, so if it was 50% before, as I know it was, going by the Petroleum Act of 1965 and subsequent legislation, why did the military knock it down to 13%? And of course, in spite even that 13%, I've said it is irresponsible on the part of government to say you have UNPADEC, you have Niger Delta Development Commission, or whatever it is, and just vote funds and not ensure that those funds are used for the purpose. It is very responsible.
Could it be a factor that they say, once a soldier, always a soldier? Is that the reality that this administration is facing? Perhaps also inspiring the stance of Mr. President?
Okay, well, the connotation is also used more by civilians. All of you always say once a soldier, even in all forms of, in the school courtism, now everybody has commander and this, and even in the militant groups that are pressure groups, they say this commander, this, that. You know, once a soldier, always a soldier. You want to connote that he is autocratic. You want to connote that he is somebody that uses a big whip against small offenses and all of that. But let's look at what he is saying now. Is it not appalling to see that the 50% down to 13% also had Niger Delta citizens in that military regime? In that military regime? Don't you know that even the President Babangida's wife was a Niger Delta person that took the capital of Delta State to Asaba in all of that place? Now, look at other regimes that have come up. Now, did they not see that derivation formula with all the legal opportunities to change the constitution and all of that to do it? When they get into the Senate, when they get into the House of Legislatures, Niger Delta citizens, I am one, they don't look at shifting the ground to status quo. They look at what they can get for themselves. All the umpire deck and all of that that he has rightly said should have taken action while monies were given to them. The corrupt elements there, decision makers, were they not from Niger Delta? Buhari comes on board now. We are saying that an old soldier is taking up his old cloak. Now, he himself, that is the Buhari, he has to push things to Senate to approve. He has the National Assembly, he has the judiciary. All of these bodies have Niger Delta elements. I'm not happy with my brothers and sisters. We are the cause of our problems today. If we want to move it back to 50%, he said Lagos have discovered oil. We have also started hearing oil discovered in the north. Yes, I don't know if you have heard that too. Okay, so since oil is discovered in the north also, will they be giving 13%? Or it will now be shifted back to 50%, and everybody will say it's because it's discovered in the north.
We have to quickly wrap this up.
Yes, but then again, I want us to talk about the military, since we've started there, you know, because I'm wondering in 2017, you know, as Nigeria progresses and all of that, later part of last year, we saw a whole lot of militarization of the communities, you know, in the southeast, in the south part of the country, because if we had an effective police that really works, would we really need all the presence of the military? You know, I mean, with the crocodile smile, with the python dance, which work. But my point is that we're in a civil society, we're in a civilian rule. You know, if we have the police, why do we need the military to always, you know, overshadow as it is?
Yeah. You see, now we have been talking about this challenge of the classes and category of intervention. We said a police officer goes to Ikeja to arrest Mr. A. He gets there, he's resisted from arresting Mr. A by a group of persons. He goes back to bring support from his area command. They come there in maybe 2 or 3 convoys, policemen. They are also resisted. They get back and they call the mobile police force. The mobile police force comes there and they cannot bring back law and order to that place. They call for military backup, which is the height of intervention, armed intervention we have right now. Because the military is both the Air Force, the Navy, and the Army. Now, in all of this escalation of intervention, we know that there was breakdown in provision of logistics, both for the military too. So if we are saying that the army needs logistics, can we say that the police doesn't have at all? Because look at Lagos state government, what they did last time to support the police. Look at other state governments, what they did. So if you see the army taking up insurgency, and people mix up with the community. They disseminate these identities to the DSS, to the police, and all of that to intervene. So Operation Python Dance was a kind of proactive action, because when it escalates, when crisis escalates, you also call the military. So we call on other arms of government to also become involved.
I'm afraid our time is up. Barrister, I wish you can do this within a minute. And it will be to talk about what needs to be done, because in the outgone year, We saw the agitation for Biafra in Southeast, which also disrupted the security of that area of the country. What do you foresee the federal government doing this time to forestall all of this? In a minute, please.
Yes, quickly, I think that it would be wise, for the federal government to engage all of these agitated groups, in dialogue. You might employ the sledgehammer. It doesn't always work. As a matter of fact, our oil production has not improved. And as we speak, the danger remains that unless you dialogue and deal with the iniquities, the causes of these agitations, you could bring all of the military, unless you want to kill everybody in those areas, which you cannot do. So it's advisable to dialogue with these people and then look at the causative, agent, what is responsible for